So this season has ended. The football season, or the Premier League season has ended. 60 points for Manchester United. 8th position, 14 losses. And what? Minus 1 goal difference. Well, that's it. It's a wrap in the Premier League. If you remember, we started this podcast on the weekend of the Premier League. And the Premier League has come to an end after 38 games. We are on episode 40-something of this podcast. Sorry, I have lost. And you've been with us discussing all the league games, the Champions League games, and we really appreciate you. We thank you for subscribing, for hitting the notification bell, for commenting, for liking. And guess what? That is not the end. We have a lot more for you from now till the end of the FA Cup final to the transfer season. And the European Championship is coming. So we'll be covering that. The Copa America as well. So that's all we have for you. Welcome once again to the United and Everything Football Podcast. I'm here with Kwame and Chukwuesiafo, my one and only. We are always here together discussing Manchester United football and everything. Kwame, is there a strange win to Brighton?
I don't know how you managed to say all that with a smile on your face. You're good, you know. You're good at this. There's nothing to smile about.
There's nothing to smile about. You know what is there to smile
Absolutely.
about? The league season has ended. That's it.
Oh, that's a good one.
I mean,
it's over.
Our misery in the league is over. I mean, 14.
They've taken us out of our pain.
We've endured 14 losses, bro. 14 losses. 14.
That's tough. That's
14. Tough. I mean, I've not seen some before in the league. 14. Kwame, how have you been?
I've been great. Personally, I've been great. Football-wise, it's been a shambles. But like you said, I'm glad it's over. So we beat Brighton today.
Yes.
I'll be honest, yeah. I didn't watch a minute of the game. I didn't watch a minute of the game.
We were all focused on the title race.
I watched the highlights after that. I watched the highlights after that, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend I saw all that went on. But then I did follow the commentary, and the commentary seemed to suggest the first half was atrocious. We were all over the place. They were all over us. But I think in the second half, from what I've read and from what I've heard, he did make some tweaks. He played a certain system in the first half, altered the system again in the second half, and we then took charge. We created a few clear opportunities. We took advantage of a couple, and at last, after 4 straight defeats to Brighton, we have been able to break the hood. We've been able to go there and beat them by 2-0, keep a clean sheet, a rare clean sheet, and ended the season on a somewhat high, if you can call it that way.
Do you remember the last time we kept a clean sheet in an away game in the league?
An away game in the league?
Yeah. It was against Everton in November 2023.
That was last year, over 6 months ago.
2023, yes.
It's been that bad, hasn't it?
We beat Everton by 3-0. That was the game that Kobe Mainoo dazzled. The Alejandro Garnacho Caesar came.
What a horrible season this is. It's beyond horrible. Beyond horrible.
You know what? Let's make a quick turnaround. When we come back, we would get into it. We have a lot to discuss. We'll be looking at the season in review in the league. We'll have a proper season review of everything that has happened in the club. I'll be looking at a short season review of the league, how things have been. We'll even look at the title race that happened between Arsenal, Manchester City, Liverpool falling off at some point. We'll just have a look at it. And a few more other things here on United and Everything Football Podcast. We'll be right back. All right, thank you very much. This is United and Everything Football Podcast. I'm here with Kwame and Chukwuesiafo. Kwame, so you made mention of the game, but there are some few talking points. I didn't watch the game. You didn't watch the game, but there are some few talking.
We quit on our own team.
we are being honest. I mean, there were other games that we were all focusing on, and
yeah.
But there are a few talking points. Rasmus Højlund, first season, 16 goals,
That's a good
10
place to
league,
start. That's a very good place to
10
start.
league goals.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the stats, he's been starved, but he still managed.
Yeah.
You know, one of our friends on the page keeps making some very interesting remarks about Højlund, where he talks, and in crap, he talks about Højlund making his goals. He makes the goals himself,
Yeah.
of the goals that he's been
Yeah.
scoring. But what do you generally make of him and the kind of signing he's been? Has it been, some say it's been average, some say it's been okay. There's a lot more room for improvement. But what do you make of it? At some point, you're very critical of him.
Yes. What I would say is now he's a 21-year-old. We signed him as a 20-year-old boy who came in, first of all, injured to a new league and unfortunately to an unsettled team. I mean, if he had come into our team last season, we're talking about a totally different dynamic.
That's true.
But we have struggled this season and it's made him also struggle too. But when you look at the trajectory throughout his career, because this is why we bought him.
Yeah.
We wanted a ready-made striker, as we've all come to learn. We wanted a hurricane, but we went for the future, somebody that can become a hurricane in the future.
Yeah.
When you look at the trajectory of his career so far, he's still been on the upward trajectory, which includes this season, because this is his most prolific season in his career. Prior to this, the most goals he scored at club level is 10 goals. And in this struggling Manchester United team, he's managed to score 16, including double digits in league goals. I did put up a poll on our page, My United Ball, in December, December. And by that time, he had scored just 5 goals in all competitions. And the poll was to ask, how many goals do you think Rasmus Højlund will score by the end of the season, based off how he has been starved of chances this season? And the poll results was between 15 and 20 goals by the end of the season. And I was like, this is a very fair poll by Manchester United fans based off what they see the boy to be and what they see this team to be. And come the end of the season, he's managed to attain that goal. He's within that bracket. 16 goals in all competitions, 5 in the Champions League, a goal in the FA Cup, 10 in the league. In all 3 of the major competitions, he's put a marker on it. Yeah. That is a very, very good starting block. So the hope is that if he's doing this when we are struggling, imagine if we are a settled side and we have players who play for him. We have a system. But it's not just the fault of the players. I fault the players a lot because we have wingers who are not usually used to servicing a center forward. That's one of the issues that we've had. Yeah. The couple of wingers who could have done that are currently not at the club. Jadon Sancho and probably Mason Greenwood, they are not at the club for various reasons. Yeah. But the wingers that are currently at the club are very direct. And one of them is
they want to score themselves. I mean, cutting in and scoring.
They want to score themselves. That's the thing. They are not used to linking up with a striker of that ilk. Because when Martial is playing, his individual attributes are a lot different from when a Højlund is playing, who wants to play with his back to goal and all those kind of things. Martial wants to come in. He has a very good touch, turn, move into the wing spaces, all that. It's more dynamic. It's more fluid. When you have a center forward like Højlund, you have to service him. You have to provide him with very good service.
Put the balls through to him, send in the crosses.
Exactly.
And all
exactly.
Of that.
Exactly. My strongest critique of him was that sometimes he engages too much with center backs rather than try to free himself on many occasions. But then I always have to remind myself,
he's a 21-year-old.
He's a kid. Like, he's actually a kid. You see, he's not this. Let's not put him on the same pedestal as a Haaland or an Mbappe at that same age.
Yeah.
Every now and then we have these extraterrestrial players who just are very, very special. They come from an 18, 19-year, 20-year-old age and they are already special. That's different. There are a lot of players in the Højlund bracket where they have a lot of potential, and you know that with time, they are going to improve, they're going to get better. And his numbers this season have proved that. So kudos to the young lad. I am extremely proud of him. Yeah. Despite my critics during the season, his body of work come the end of the day.
Yeah.
The type of goals that he scored, left foot, right foot, off the head, taking the ball from deep outside the box and scoring all types of scores. He's shown that he's got the plethora of goals he's got it in him. All that is left is for us to have a very settled team, a settled system, and then that plays for the center forward.
Yeah.
Gives him more chances than not because he's the most efficient striker in the league, based on the fact that he's literally starved of chances.
Mm-hmm.
But he needs to be able to play in a system, a style of football where he's able to afford to miss chances. And I think he will score double the number of goals that he has.
That's a very interesting one. It's. I mean, in the last couple of games, the coach decided to, keep him on the bench, and with the idea of him, clearing his mind and then coming into the game to be able to play because there's been a lot of pressure on him, and he's been the lone man. Um, Anthony Martial has been injured all season. Rashford,
he abandoned us.
He abandoned the ship. He abandoned the ship very early in the season, and it's been Rasmus Højlund all by himself. And there's even been moments where he's had injuries, which has broken the rhythm and the momentum that he was.
Great injuries, especially when he was very good in the middle of the season. That injury was
that's muscle
timing of it was so bad.
Really, really, because he was on fire. He was scoring consecutively, and when sometimes the more you score, the more your confidence builds, and when you find yourself in such a situation, it becomes very, very difficult to continue with the kind of because there's a break in how do you call it, the form you are building, the rhythm, that's it, that you are building, and things become a lot more difficult. But kudos to him for scoring 15 goals in the season. But let's look at it. We have a few things we'll talk about in the season. Let's start with the player that has disappointed you the most in this league campaign. What player has disappointed? A few names come up. Marcus Rashford, based off on what he did last season. Anthony Dos Santos. I don't know whether he will qualify for a flop of the season or a disappointment of the season, or he falls within the two. But let's start with the disappointment of the season. Which player has disappointed you the most?
It comes down to two names, but then I always say I'm harshest on the people that I love the most.
Yeah.
So of the two names is between Rashford and Casemiro. Yeah. But I put Rashford at the top of the queue because his goals meant so much to us last season. So much.
Made a lot of difference.
It made a massive difference. It was the difference between us having a good season and a bad season. Yeah. Let's just cap it at that. Yeah. And the coach was banking on him. Fans were banking on him. We were all banking on him to continue on that same trajectory, meaning that his goals were factored into the equation when it came to the output from the team this season. We scored very few goals this season. I think he ended up with 8 goals in all competitions, which is terrible. It is horrible. Yeah. Even if he had scored half the number of goals he scored last season.
That's, to think of it, that's a huge drop-off from 30 goals.
That's a huge drop-off. Exactly. Massive drop-off. And when you take those goals out of the equation, you are hoping that, he could have that. You add a number 9 to that, and then it takes us somewhere.
Yeah.
You get what I'm trying to say? But unfortunately, those goals go out. And now we have a newbie who has to do it all on his own. Isn't always fit all the time, but has to do it all on his own, and ends up with a respectable 16 goals, a few winning goals here and there. But then Rashford not able to follow up on the season that he had last season was just a massive down.
Okay. So Kwame, you're making a point on Rashford.
Yeah. So like I was saying, taking away his goals, if we can't factor in his goals anymore from last season, was almost always going to affect the team. I don't know why he's had seesaw seasons over the past, I think, 3 or 4 seasons, but at a point he has to develop some form of consistency for his own sake, because what I think Ineos is going to do is they're going to up the bar in terms of performance. When players aren't performing to a certain level, I think they are going to be ruthless in a sense compared to times in the past. So players like him may be at risk of being sold, for instance, if they do not perform amicably to a certain standard or to a certain level. This drop-off cannot continue to happen. Casemiro has given his synopsis of how the season has gone. He's come to the defense of the manager, he's come to the defense of the club, and his own defense that he's not been fit. He's had some untimely injuries. He was one of the best players last season. So if there is a fall off this season, people should not disrespect him and look into it to see how come the player that he was last season is a totally different player this season. But then again, that also goes for a lot of the players. So I get where he's coming from. But for a player of his experience, sometimes when the chips are down, you turn to your most experienced players to hold the football. Unfortunately, he has rather been one of our worst players, especially in the second half of the season.
He has contributed to a lot of the
things. He's contributed to a lot of our losses and a lot of he's just been a liability in a lot of the games. One may say playing as a centre back over the last 6-7 games has not done him in the world of good. Yeah. But it's not like he was doing well when he was playing in central midfield either. There's been a huge drop off in his performance. Yeah. But like I said, we can strip the whole team there from back to front, and we'll probably get only a couple of players or 2 or 3 players who have held their heads up high, like the likes of Diogo Dalot, Captain Bruno Fernandes, Alejandro Garnacho, or probably Harry Maguire to an extent. Everybody has not been up to, every other person has not really been up to it this season. Albeit they all have excuses of niggling injuries here and there. Yep. 60 to 70 injuries across the entire squad. It's been untenable.
That's something huge for any club to deal with.
It's been massive. It's been massive. So it's contributed to the downturn in performance of a lot of players, but let's not leave them off the hook.
Yeah.
The likes of Rashford and Casemiro, for me, have been massive disappointments this season.
Very interesting one. So what we'll do aside this season, aside this podcast, is that we will have a podcast where we would look at the numbers, all the numbers from injuries to, the goals we've conceded, the shots we've faced. We'll try and make meaning of all of these data. This data we'll try and understand why the reasons behind some of these, why these data has come to the fore for Manchester United and all of that. So please stick with us, be with us throughout this summer. We have a lot in store for you here on United and Everything Football. But Kwame, where do we place Anthony? I mean, let's look at players that has really, really flopped this season. Because Anthony's name comes to mind. I mean, for the whole season, for the amounts that we bought Anthony for, to score just 1 goal and provide just 1 assist in the league, it's been quite disappointing.
Yeah. Anthony came into the season off the back of some quite disturbing news, concerning his private life.
Yeah.
Mason Greenwood was out for over a year with similar situations, but this is a player who has to deal with it while still playing. So let's not forget that there was that aspect.
Yeah.
But
that's fair.
Ignoring that aspect, as hard as it is to ignore, we have to look at it as fans, and we look at your performance on the football pitch.
Yeah.
And then we have to judge you by that. So I've put in a bit of a word for him.
Yeah.
But it's only fair. On the football, it's only fair.
Yeah.
But in terms of the performance on the football, because dealing with this thing, there's a lot happening in the background. Let's not pretend as if there was not stuff going on. There are a lot of legal issues going on, and we'll probably hear about it later as to how the investigations have gone and all those kind of things. But let's put that aside. On the football pitch, Anthony has not shown much, not just this season, but right from last season. He's been on a downward trajectory. The numbers don't lie. I was not a fan of Anthony to start with. You are not a fan of Anthony to start with. Yes. I don't know of any person in our private chats who was a fan of the Anthony signing to start with. Yeah. But I think what it's proven is that we were all right. Yes. In the sense that he is not a Premier League type of winger. Yeah. That's the problem. The problem is it's not like he's not a talented player or he's not a good footballer in a sense. But I just don't think that he's built to play Premier League football.
You know why I'm laughing? I was having a private chat with another colleague, and we're talking about Anthony, and I played in my mind Anthony anytime he is to chase a ball or he's running with a ball. You see the way he tilts his head backwards and
he's putting in a lot.
A lot. Like you realize that this is a gentleman who is not he has
the will to do it, but he's not naturally. He's not doing it naturally.
You see the way Garnacho would accelerate and run with the ball, and we'll be very quick about it. Anthony will go and will get stuck at some point. Would have to cut back, and then we'll have to look at a player close to him before he could play the ball. Yeah. He's a player.
Did you see how much he had to put in to even score his goal against Burnley?
Like
the extra strain and
energy had to go into that.
Yeah.
I was just chipping in that, and it tells you that he's a player who is not really cut for, especially even the type of football we want to play. Even the football we say we are playing transition football, and you have to.
He's not cut for it.
And it's just not working.
You may have the will and then a desire, because his will is not a problem. His work ethic is not a problem. He's one of the hardest working players now. But we did not pay £85 million for you to be tracking back and working hard. We paid for that for your input on the other side of the pitch, to be honest. And unfortunately, he doesn't create enough. He doesn't score enough. He's not dynamic enough. He's not quick enough. He's just not a fit for the Premier League. Like Rivaldo has come out to say, he's a player that should be playing in the Spanish league. It's the perfect, but I think he would also suit probably the Italian league because of how tactical and slow it can be at times.
I mean, they rely a lot more on combination play, pass, move.
It's highly tactical and it can be slow, it can be quick. It's a chess match on a football pitch. Unlike the English Premier League, which is fast and ferocious.
Very athletic.
It's highly, very athletic. You get what I'm saying? So that is the problem. It's the same issue that I have with Sancho in our team. It's the athleticism, the energy, the drive, the energy to, continue at it all the time. The game doesn't slow down for you in the Premier League as it will slow down for you in the Bundesliga or in other leagues or in the Champions League. The Champions League, it slows down. It's tactical. It's not always 100 meters per hour.
Run,
Exactly. And that's the issue that these are two creative players, especially Anthony has. Anthony doesn't have it at all. He's not built for the Prem. That's the thing. So it's a combination of all these things that I've said. But ultimately, you look at his body of work and you say, for the amount of money that we bought him, his output is way below par. If we are going by the highest, judging by the highest level of standards, this is a player that after 2 seasons, you say to yourself, it's not worked, and we have to find a way of getting you out, either on loan or selling you outright.
I believe the best solution would be able to get him a very good loan so that it raises the value a little bit. Then we quickly
can get something back.
Exactly, because it's at this stage when you take Anthony to the market, you are getting nothing. No agent is working it out. I mean, what are you going to sell about Anthony? Are you going to sell his Ajax days because it's United?
It's a hard sell.
There is absolutely nothing there for you to market or sell with regards to that. And given the baggage that has to do with his situation and all of that, it becomes a lot.
We are hearing news of us signing a new expensive left-footed right winger. It's an indictment on you if we bought you for £85 million. We are looking to replace you. And if you look at his appearances over the course of the season, after he was reintroduced into the squad, I think Eric Ten Hag tried to help him by starting him, Unfortunately, the performances weren't up to scratch. He can't say his coach did not try his best for him.
Yes.
Then he has gone onto the bench, and now he doesn't even come off the bench as a substitute. It tells you how things have gone for him. It's just been a downward trajectory. The next thing you know is probably the issue we have now is he may be, like you just said rightly, he may be hard to move. Even getting a good loan for him may prove difficult. And based on whom we will be able to get rid of the squad, we may be forced to keep Anthony. That's the issue. Because if you are going to get rid of a Sancho and a Sancho and a Mason Greenwood, you are left with the new signing in Olise and an inexperienced Ahmad as your options on the right wing. One would say that we probably need an extra winger in there, of which Anthony will be hard to shift, so he ends up staying at the football club. But he may end up staying and not playing. And that also becomes a problem. So we have to find a solution. for the summer. But he's not the biggest fan of Ineos, from what we've heard. Ineos is not a huge fan of the Brazilian, and there's no surprise.
3 players have stood out. I mean, in the midst of the season, Bruno Fernandes, Alejandro Garnacho, Kobe. So let me make it 4: Kobe Mainoo, and then Hugo Dalot. These are players who have stood out, and I mean, Kwame, what do you make quickly? I want us to touch a bit on the Premier League itself. Let's touch on Dalot. Dalot is the big guy.
Yeah, Dalot seems to be the pick of the bunch because Patrice Evra has endorsed him. A lot of players are endorsing him. He seems to be doing a lot of private personal interviews now.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of Dalot.
Has he played 38 over 38 league games? Has he?
I don't think it's 38 over 38, but it will be very close.
Very close. Okay.
He has been the reason. What makes him stand out this season is he has been consistently available. Availability. Yes. I always say the best attribute of any footballer is availability. And prior to this season, he has not been the fittest of players. But this season, at his peak, because he's 25, 26 years old now, he's proven to show some huge level of fitness as well as commitment.
Yeah.
And his performances have always been a sort of 7 over 10. Earlier on the season, he wasn't as consistent. He used to make a lot of mistakes against Newcastle in the Champions League on numerous occasions. I feel he partly contributed to our Champions League exits. Yes. Aside Onana's mistakes, the biggest culprits in terms of mistakes in the Champions League against Copenhagen, against the Turkish team.
Yes, Galatasaray. Yeah.
All that. It was funny. But as the season went on, his confidence grew. His contributions, not just in defense, because I feel his defense is a bit average, a bit improved from previous seasons, but it's not his defense that is his biggest attribute. This new offensive attacking system building up from the back is suited perfectly as an inverted fullback. And his contributions in the final third has improved in terms of his crosses, his delivery, and running in behind, as evidenced today by the goal. The goal he scored today has been coming for weeks.
Yes, he's been doing that a lot. He's been doing that a lot.
Run a lot. It's a tactic that's, for those who say Eric Ten Hag doesn't have tactics, that is a clear tactic we've been seeing throughout the course of the entire season, where Dalot is almost always running behind him. Either Onana or a centre back is looking to pick him across. And finally, he got the end of one of those and stuck it at the back of the net. He scored 3 goals this season and had 5 assists. That's a decent output for an attacking fullback in the system that we play. It can be better. He can only get better. And I think it is clear. Bruno Fernandes had this late foray of performances and goals over the last couple of months. But I feel if we consider the entire season, the entire body of work, it's very, very hard to overlook Dalot's body of work and say somebody else deserves the player of the season ahead of it.
All right. So we've had a lot to say about Kobe Mainoo and Garnacho. Kobe Mainoo has been the revelation for the season, obviously. There is no doubt about it. But
100%,
you have just some short time. But is it time for Pep Guardiola to leave the league? We are tired of him.
Of course,
he's catching up. He's catching up on Sir Alex Ferguson in various ways that I feel.
I looked at the number of uncomfortable. I looked at it. He's got 1 more year in his contract. I do not want to hear of a contract renewal. I also want to hear in the next 12 months that City have been messed up badly by the FA. That's one of those 115 charges to count for something. Discredit a lot of the work that he's done, and probably after that he'll be frustrated enough to go like, I have to leave, and then City lied to me.
Something should happen for him to leave.
115 should happen for him to leave.
115
after the next 12 months he should be gone. I looked at the record for number of Premier League titles. We have 13. I'm talking about the Premier League alone,
yes,
not titles in general. Yes. Titles in general, we are way ahead. We are way clear. Papa Bob Bryan, what it means is when your dad lives a very good life, it's good. Alex Ferguson put us in a great stead.
Yes.
But when you consider only Premier League titles,
he's catching up.
He's catching up. It's
six
Premier League
titles. 6 over for him. Pep alone, it's been 6 over 8, right?
Yeah, I know. But then that record, Ferguson had 7 over 9 to start with, so it's not really a thing.
Okay.
What's really scary is we have 13 Premier League titles. City have 8 now.
Wow. That's
and then
5.
I think Chelsea have 5.
5, yes.
And Arsenal have 3.
Yes.
And the rest are
1-1.
Liverpool have won.
Liverpool have
Leicester City have
won.
won.
Blackburn
have won.
Yes.
So all of a sudden, from us being 13 to, let's assume let's assume Pep wasn't there, hadn't won this. Is it 5 league titles out of 7?
6.
6 league titles out of 8.
Yes.
Assuming City hadn't won the 6, the closest to us was Chelsea on 5 Premier League titles to 13. But all of a sudden, City out of nowhere are on 8. And they don't look like they're slowing down on this one.
They are winning it again next season, aren't they?
The worst part is we don't look like we are going to challenge anytime soon. And that's the problem.
Yes.
You get it? So it's a bit uncomfortable. But nonetheless, Ferguson still has 5 Premier League titles. It's not easy to do.
Yes.
And I don't think Pep Guardiola will be here for the next 5 to 10 years to be able to usurp us.
Yeah.
So it may be safe for now, but it certainly looks uncomfortable on viewing.
Wow, that was a very good title race. Arsenal felt that they had it, but I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know what they were thinking. I mean, Liverpool have been through this, and I definitely
we have been through this with City.
Yes,
let's say a lot of fans sort of forget. City have actually done this to us before. We were the originals of this, suffering this City problem.
Yes,
it's just that the rest have suffered it under Pep. I mean, Liverpool have suffered under Pep.
Yes,
but I think we lost out to City on goal difference.
On goal difference, yes, in 2012.
On goal difference.
Yes,
the Aguero
moment,
yes. Very, very painful. We had won our game at Sunderland. They were just waiting to be crowned champions.
Yeah.
So what Liverpool have gone through a couple of times, we experienced it first.
Yes.
It's been Arsenal's turn to experience it. Exactly. So we should all come together in unison as one family. and pray, campaign to drive Pep Guardiola out. So City crumble. So that we can have a fair crack at it. We can all have a fair crack at it. In the near
115, God of 115, please come to our aid. Guys, that's how we draw the curtain on today's edition of United Everything Football Podcast. We know you enjoyed it, so please leave us a comment, leave us a like. And also, if you've not subscribed, if you watched and you've not subscribed, please remember to hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you can be notified anytime we drop a new episode. In the course of this week, we'll be building up to the FA Cup final. We'll be bringing you stats, history, a lot more comments. We'll be doing a quick review with a few fans called the Fans Forum, just the Fans Forum, here on United Everything Football Podcast. So it's going to be a very packed week. So make sure you stick and stay with this channel as we build up to the FA Cup final. Kwame, thank you very much for joining. It's been a pleasure having you. Meet on the next one. Have a great time to you, everyone. Stay safe and bye-bye.